When you wake up and look outside and see a snowstorm like this, what are you going to do? I was going to go outside, but not until I have to shovel. I know, let's talk about little plastic robots. But this time it's not a review. No, this time it's a controversial topic. Hello once again to everybody out in YouTube land, to TF fans, and to anybody else in my audience. This is Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. By all means, please follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram and all those good things. Links down in the description below. And what bot do I got today? Well, you can see right here, Titan class Metroplex and Leader class Jetfire. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have a bunch of bots today because we're going to talk about something that everyone talks about but I rarely see addressed. And what's that? CHUG scale. Now let's get a couple of things straight first. For anybody who is new and unfamiliar, CHUG refers to a line of transformers known as Classics, Universe, Henkei, and Generations. Not in that order. They're a line that's run really since about 2006. It still continues today with the Combiner Wars and with Titan's return. Scale. Scale refers to size comparison. And there's two ways to look at it. Vehicle size comparison or robot size comparison. And vehicle size comparison can be really difficult because, for example, if you buy nothing but Legends class figures, and we'll get into what a Legends class figure is, should Optimus Prime be the same size as Bumblebee? Should Shockwave be the same size as Buzzsaw? That's up to you to decide, but there are some general rules of thumb that people use to try and guide their decisions. If you're going to try and scale vehicles, your robots are not going to scale. If you're going to try and scale robots, your vehicles aren't going to scale. It's simple physics, folks. You can only have it one way. Unlike the cartoon, we do not have mass shifting in real life. What's mass shifting? Size changes. Megatron transforms into a gun. As a robot, he's a full-size figure. Bigger than Starscream. But when he transforms into a gun, he can be held by Starscream or Skywarp or Soundwave, whoever. Is the scale perfect? No. But we get the closest approximation that we can as collectors. Why did I start out with these two? Because right now, Titan class Metroplex is the biggest figure we have, and so he should be. And I use Leader scale, Jetfire, Skyfire, because he's a good one to compare things to, and you'll see as we get going. First things first. If you have a huge figure like Metroplex, who else could compare with him? Who should compare with him? Well, we know we have upcoming Fortress Maximus. He should compare with him. In fact, Fortress Maximus should be even bigger. But let me ask you this. He is 2 feet tall. He is a lot in my hands. He's a lot in anybody's hands. Imagine, if you will, somebody who bought this for a child. They still need to be able to manipulate it. In all honesty, if Fortress Maximus is the same size as Metroplex, I think that most people will accept it as a necessary evil of toy design. Trypticon should be the same size, and Scorponok should be the same size. Would it be nice if Scorponok and Fortress Maximus were bigger? Sure. Is that realistic? I don't think so. Not for price point, not for materials used, and just not for handleability. So everything is going to go smaller than this. And that brings us to our next Titan class. The Mighty Devastator. To my sensibilities and to my recollection, Devastator was actually smaller than the other combiners, such as Bruticus, Menasor, Superion, and Defensor. But when you stop for a minute and you consider that he should scale with Omega Supreme, and Omega Supreme should be a little bit smaller than Metroplex, maybe this isn't such a bad scale. Plus, let's consider that he's made up of 6 construction vehicles. They're large vehicles. And this day and age, all these years later, he's regarded as the original, the first, and probably the best combiner of them all. Can I accept him in this scale? Sure, especially if I get a version of Omega Supreme that matches with him. Should he be bigger than Jetfire? Definitely. This is a good scale. He stands about 18 inches, and Omega Supreme, hopefully, when and if we ever get another updated one, will stand about the same. But then we have an anomaly. What about the old Supreme class? Here we have the Chaos Bringer himself, who I just recently reviewed. Still a great figure, still a great mold, as old as he is. I will move these around a little bit to try and make everything fit on camera as well as I can. There are those who would say that, hey, wait, Unicron is a planet. Unicron should be bigger than Metroplex. Unicron should be bigger than Fortress Maximus, and you're right. But again, let's be realistic. He needs to be handleable, he needs to be handleable, and Metroplex needs to be handleable. Supreme class was huge at the time, and he stands about 16 inches, ladies and gentlemen. For Unicron, I think this still works. Why? Because we have seen him smaller. If you watched Transformers Prime, he changed his size from extremely huge to about the same size as Optimus Prime. Here, he's still going to be bigger than most figures, still imposing, and still has a presence. And if he and Metroplex were locked in combat, I'm sure that he would still be able to hold his own. That takes care of the big bots. Let's move down. What comes after the big bots? What should be next? I would suggest to you that next we should have our combiners. I'm using Combiner Wars Defensor here as an example. And no, I haven't reviewed this guy yet. I will eventually. If I can get him to stand, then we'll talk about him there. He's smaller than all of these guys, than Supreme class, than Titan class. He's smaller than Metroplex, so he should be. Made up of 4, though you can't see his legs very easily right now, made up of 4 Deluxe class figures, and made up of a Voyager for the body, just as it should be. How does he compare with a leader class figure such as Jetfire? Well, you can see it right there. He's a bit bigger. And a combiner should be a bit bigger than Jetfire. Is this totally accurate? Who knows? Maybe he should even be bigger again. But the fact that he stands a taller height at about a foot tall compared to about his 9 inches or so tall is good enough for me. Then we have other leader class figures that probably shouldn't be as small as a Voyager class, but probably shouldn't quite be a leader class, like the awesome Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus and Jetfire are about the same size. Does that make sense? Maybe he should be a little bit smaller than Jetfire, but look how awesome he looks anyway. Who cares if he's smaller than Jetfire? I certainly don't. So you make allowances for certain figures. And we will put Ultra Magnus back here. So what does come as a smaller figure than Jetfire? Why don't we go with Voyager size? These guys stand at about 7 inches or so in height. That is Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. And yes, I have done some custom paint work on him. I will talk about that when the time comes to review him. Also, you could include third parties here and how they scale. This is Toy World's Hegemon. By the way, I still think he is an absolute beauty of a figure. I have also done a little bit of custom paint work on him. I will talk about that another time. Is there anything smaller than these guys? Well, before we get to that, let's look at a figure that would stir controversy. Boom. Fall of Cybertron Grimlock. Some would say he should be a leader class toy. Large and imposing, but should Grimlock be the same size as Jetfire? Again, it depends on your sensibilities and what you believe. Personally, no, I don't think he should. And let's adjust some of these guys here in an effort to fit as much as we can on camera. And let's adjust the camera down. Should Grimlock be the same size as Optimus Prime? No, probably not. He should be a little bit bigger. But again, we make allowances because, for me, I believe he should be smaller than Jetfire. Plus, he's bulkier than Optimus. And he was made at a time when it was very difficult for figures of good quality to be made. Is he good quality? We'll see when we review him. So who's smaller than the Voyager class? That brings us to Deluxe class. Here's Jazz, Fall of Cybertron Jazz to be specific. And here is Cup. These guys stand at about 6 inches or so, roughly. And is that scale perfect? No. If we look at Fall of Cybertron Starscream, he is so much smaller than the Voyager Megatron. Could he use a Voyager treatment? Probably. But would Voyager be too big for him? That depends on your take. Personally, I like him at deluxe size of about 6 inches. If anything, it would be nice if he came up to about here. But that would be in between a deluxe class and a Voyager class. And the truth is, we have to deal with the physics as they are. By the way, I said that that's not perfect. Well, you have someone like this guy, who I recently reviewed. Hot Rod. Hot Rod should probably be a Voyager class. Why? Because he's a leader. He's a leader of a faction. Then we have someone like my custom painted Age of Extinction Strafe / Swoop with 2 heads. He scales very well with Grimlock if you look over here. But again, being a deluxe, is he too small? That depends on you. Personally, I think that having most Dinobots be deluxe size and having Grimlock and Slog / Sludge at Voyager scale works. But that's just me. For the record, let's throw in a Robots in Disguise figure. This is Fracture, Warrior class Fracture. As you can see, a Warrior class figure is about a deluxe size. Same thing, except a little bit of rebranding. And as far as Voyager class does go, you could include triple changers. Here is Blitzwing. I think triple changers work very well in a Voyager scale. I'm looking forward to the upcoming Astro Train. And you could even include figures like Classics Wheeljack. Beautiful figure, works great in deluxe scale. So what comes below deluxe scale? Well, standing at about 3.5 inches, we have these guys. The mini-bots, guys like Bumblebee, Huffer, Cliffjumper, Gears, Warpath, although the deluxe class Warpath is an exception because that figure is absolutely stellar. You could throw in Cosmos. On the Decepticon side, the mini cassettes of Rumble, Ravage, Laserbeak, Buzzsaw, Frenzy. Those guys work great in this scale. And let's see if Bumblebee will stand. Beautiful. Those guys work great in this scale. Again, if you have a Legends class Megatron or Starscream, does it make sense for those guys to be as small as the Minibots? Probably not, but then you have exceptions again to that rule, like this guy, Acid Storm, Legends class Acid Storm. And actually, I bought 3 versions of this figure, painted one blue, painted one yellow, which I'll get to when I review this guy. And boom, what do we have? The popular, but not often seen, Rainmakers from G1. And what about the Insecticons? The Insecticons were also always a little bit smaller. So somebody like Bombshell works great in this scale. And he even knocks over Bumblebee. Wonderful. So is there anything smaller? What about, since we're heading into a time of figures where we will see Headmasters and Target Masters and probably Power Masters, what about these guys? These little tiny guys right here. They're both Target Masters. He is Blaze Master, came with Bumblebee. This is Suppressor, who came with Cliff Jumper. These guys stand at, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And not very posable. I mean, if you take Suppressor, I can review Suppressor right now. If you take Suppressor and you put his arms down, boom, there's Suppressor in vehicle mode, right there. If you stand him up and flip out his arms, there's Suppressor in robot mode, right there. If you, can I even remember how to do this guy as a weapon? I don't know. I'll worry about it when I do Cliff Jumper. Little figure, but piles of fun. So, look at figures here. Ask me if you're inclined to wonder, hey, where do you think someone fits? Let's take an overall view. We have, at 2 feet tall, the granddaddy of them all, Titan class Metroplex, who should have figures such as Scorponok, Fortress Maximus, and Trypticon match him. Then we have Combiner Wars Devastator, still huge and imposing, but a little bit smaller than Metroplex. He should scale with Omega Supreme. So we have 2 feet, we have 18 inches. Then we have Supreme Class. Supreme Class Unicron at about 16 inches. By the way, the Supreme Class Primus stands at about 14 inches tall. Is it okay for him to be that size? I think so. As we come down further, we have the Combiner of Defensor. Smaller than Unicron, smaller than Devastator, but still large and imposing as a Combiner should be. We move over to Leader class figures like Jetfire and Ultra Magnus. They stand at about 9 inches tall, while a Combiner like Defensor stands at 11 to 12 inches tall. We come down further and we have Voyager class figures such as Evasion Mode Optimus Prime, FOC, Grimlock, and Generations Blitzwing. These guys stand at about 7 inches or so tall. And truth is, they're a nice size to hold. They're a nice size for manipulating in your hands. We come down further and we have figures like Cup and Wheeljack. We have Warrior Class Fracture. And we have FOC Starscream. These figures stand at about 6 inches tall. They are deluxe class, and you have exceptions to the rule here. You see Hot Rod, who should probably be a little bit bigger, especially if you're using him as a Rodimus. If we come down even further, we have the roughly 3-inch tall Legends class figures. Guys like Huffer, guys like Bumblebee, the Insecticons like Bombshell, and
Of course, exceptions to the rule, because let's be honest, a character like Acid Storm is a Seeker. He should be deluxe size. I can accept him smaller because I have that entire trio of Rainmakers smaller. And then, last but not least, at maybe 1.5 inches tall or so, we come down to the little Target Masters of Blaze Master and Suppressor. In the end, and let's back way up here. And let's get everything out of the way. In the end, this is what you can see. Compare your own figures and your own sensibilities of scale to these figures and ask yourself, where does Blur fit in? Where does Skywarp and Thundercracker fit in? Should they be leader size, the same size as Jetfire, or not? Ask yourself where figures such as Cosmos and Warpath fit in. Are you willing to make exceptions to the rule? Should Megatron be a leader class the same size as Jetfire and Ultra Magnus? Where would Galvatron fit in? Is Voyager size good for him? What about figures such as RID's Sideswipe or RID's Megatronus? Should they be deluxe or bigger? Anyway, food for thought. I hope that this video has helped you to understand robot scale a little bit and at least given you a frame of reference for you to measure your collection by. Until next time, folks, take care of yourselves, love what you love, and take care of each other. Thanks for watching. Bye.